My lecture today will focus on True Mother's life course. We have learned a lot about True Father's life course, from Father's autobiography and through various workshops. However, if we are going to have a good understanding of the value of true parents, and if we are going to live our lives centered on true parents, we need to understand not only Father's life, but also Mother's life. Only then can we come to understand true parents' true value and be able to properly conduct our daily lives in attendance of true parents. In this context, I would like to begin the first section of my lecture today with the contents about True Mother, particularly with her life before her holy birth, and between her birth and the holy wedding. When discussing these two phases of Mother's life, I will also mention at least 10 special conditions that Father referred to in his speeches. While considering the contents of these 10 points, I developed a firm conviction that the holy wedding of True Mother was very specially prepared and holds principled, providential and cosmic meaning. Therefore, based on that information, we will try to understand thoroughly about True Mother as the only begotten daughter, based on what true parents themselves have said. What is applicable to the only begotten daughter is related to the realization of the ideal of the peaceful world under true parents, and related to the only begotten son and only begotten daughter. Accordingly, the contents of this next section of the booklet are entitled, After the Holy Wedding as True Parents, What Kind of Victorious Lives Have They Lived as True Parents? It explains this with the title, True Parents Are the Master Key. Accordingly, after Foundation Day, how do we concretely achieve the original ideal world? Those guidelines, namely the contents for making substantial progress, are expressed well, clause by clause, in the Chonilguk Constitution. Therefore, I believe Mother will soon emphasize the relationship between the safe settlement of the substantial Chonilguk and the Chonilguk Constitution, especially the three organs of Chonilguk. The background concerning their launching is in the third section of the booklet. In this section, I provide concise points concerning what we should do in 2016, the fourth year of Chonilguk, until the fulfillment of Vision 2020, and even beyond that, as well as how we will attend Father and Mother. All this while we are in the substantial situation where we are accomplishing concretely the ideal world of the original creation. I collected, as thoroughly as possible, the contents of True Parents' speeches and analyzed those contents meticulously. Sometimes I analyzed and categorized the speeches, utilizing 3 ranks, 3 levels, where I underlined certain kinds of passages, or typed certain kinds of passages in a blue color, or typed certain kinds of passages in red. Also, sometimes I utilized a method whereby I would put 1, 2, or 3 stars next to a passage. I compiled today's lectures from all the important points I gathered through that process. As Chonilguk leaders, I think that all of you are already aware that the flow of the providence is ultimately toward the establishment of the original ideal world. This was our exact motivation for joining the church. We were so moved that we decided to join the Unification Church and begin our life of faith. However, we know that the ideal world was not achieved at the time of the first Adam and Eve, nor at the time of the second Adam and Eve. For the first time in the course of fulfilling the number 3 through the third Adam and Eve, we have arrived at the concluding situation with true parents at the center. From this perspective, the true parents' holy births and holy wedding have great significance. After concluding their course as true parents, now the course after Foundation Day, which was the starting point of the substantial Chonilguk, is progressing continuously. Our goal is the ideal world. No matter how tough things become, our goal is for the original ideal world of creation. From the perspective of physics, the 13.8 billion years of the history of our cosmos are ultimately for the sake of realizing an ideal world. Therefore, we have reached a point in time when we are creating this fundamentally. From this perspective, I am dividing True Parents' life course into 5 stages. The first stage is True Parents' life course before their holy births. The second stage stretches from their holy births to the time of their holy wedding. In a way, it is a course for individual perfection, and the third stage is the holy wedding itself. The marriage supper of the Lamb is so important that I refer to it as the third stage. The fourth stage is their course as the true parents of humankind. The fifth stage refers to the contents up to true parents' ascension, and after that when Father is in the spirit world and Mother in the physical world, and they are proceeding together on the cosmic level. Today I will talk about the first, second and third stages, and in particular in regards to True Mother.
어머님에 대한 제1단계, 제2단계, 제3단계에 대한 내용을 보도록 하겠습니다.
The first stage of True Mother's life course was preparation for True Mother before her holy birth. I will look at it broadly from 8 different perspectives. The first is from God's perspective. I think the preparation for True Mother, as seen from God's perspective, is very important because our ideal of creation and the providence of restoration stem from God. There are many aspects, but when we look at only the broad theme, God made all the preparations for Mother's birth. Hereon, Cham refers to Champumogyeong, Pyong to Pyeonghwagyong, and Chon to Chonseongyong, and DP to the Divine Principle. Also the date of the speech will be referred to. We can see God's preparation, God's calling, God's revelation, and how Daemonim prepared for Mother to be born while attending God. As revealed in the Champumogyeong, God was with True Mother's family. We see that there was the preparation course in which Daemonim and her mother, Grandmother Cho Won-mo, offered sincere devotion in front of God. We will be able to see that from the viewpoint of God, who is the subject of the ideal of creation and the subject of the providence of restoration, that all these things were preparations for Mother. Secondly, because True Mother comes as the bride and the wife of the returning Lord, we will look at the contents of the preparation for Mother's birth from the perspective of the returning Lord. The preparation in relation to the returning Lord occurred through 3 generations in True Mother's family. There were many accounts of Grandmother Cho and Daemonim living lives of complete devotion in preparation to meet the returning Lord. They made concrete and substantial offerings and achievements for the sake of the returning Lord. Even before Mother's birth, they had received a divine revelation that Mother would become the Queen of the universe.
어머님의 탄생 이전에 이미 우주의 여왕이 될 것이라는 그런
If the returning Lord is the king,
그 여왕이라 하면은
his bride will be able to become the queen.
재림 주님으로 본다면 여왕은 재림 주님의 신부가 될 수 있다고 봅니다. 이런 내용
We can see that this preparation was already in place by the time of Mother's birth.
보게 됩니다. 그다음에 세 번째는
Next, the third perspective covers the relationship between True Father and True Mother, and the course related to the number 3. Because the third Adam and the third Eve are related to the providence of the number 3, which signifies completion, there are many speeches regarding the number 3, particularly about father and mother. When we read the sermons of the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, we find there is much about True Mother, such as that there were to be 3 generations of only daughters, 3 generations of devoted women. Furthermore, there are many sermons in which Father says that the 3 generations did not just end as 3 separate generations, but had to connect and become one. There is much content about this, such as that the 3 generations had to attend the returning Lord together. Also that the 3 generations together had to have achievements for the sake of the returning Lord. Father spoke about this on many occasions. He also said that there had to be a sacrificial family of 3 ages in order for Mother to be born. Additionally, in a sermon as far back as 1977, Father said that there had to be a transfer of the mission of spiritual groups over 3 generations. All of these contents are related to the providence of the number 3. Thus we can see that True Mother's background connects closely to the providence of the number 3. Next, from the 4th perspective, the returning Lord comes, bringing new teachings and new words of truth. Therefore, to welcome the Lord at His second coming, there had to be preparation for the new truth and an understanding of the new truth. Since the new truth has to be made known to the world, Grandmother Cho and Daemonim, Mother's mother, laid the foundation prior to Mother's birth for Mother to be able to study the Bible, which was the foundation for that new truth. Because Daemonim lived a faithful life of religious renewal for 19 years, she had much background concerning the Bible from before Mother's birth. While in pursuit of the new truth, Daemonim made frequent trips to the Holy Lord Church in Cheolsan, which was 120 kilometers away, and listened to the teachings of the new truth. There she heard teachings regarding 5 aspects of the new truth, which are the new contents that we now know, such as the returning Lord is coming to Korea, that the returning Lord would be Korean, and that a new marriage ceremony must be conducted centered on the returning Lord. These contents were being taught even at that time. We can see that by gaining so much new truth, Grandmother Cho and Daemonim indeed prepared the foundation before True Mother's birth. Next, since Mother was born and raised at home, her family foundation is very important. Several people in her family established foundations, but let us focus on one of her ancestors, Jo Han-jun. Jo Han-jun was a wealthy man who made a great contribution by investing all his wealth to construct a bridge over the Dalle River. He even received a revelation telling him that since his efforts were great, a princess would be sent. Grandmother Cho and Daemonim's family foundation was so solid that ordinary people find it difficult to follow such a way. They had faith in Protestantism, in the Holy Lord Church, and in the Inside the Belly Church, and they built up a family foundation of enormous suffering for the sake of the preparation for the returning Lord to come. We can see that True Mother was born on that foundation. As we all know, the divine principle states clearly that the course of the true parents is the course of restoring Canaan on the cosmic level as the third Adam, the returning Lord, and the third Eve. Therefore, because the course to restore Canaan involves both the spiritual world and the physical world, there absolutely must be preparation of and revelation from the spirit world.
신령 교단과 관련된 내용들이 많이
That is why when we look at mother's family members before her birth, we can see that they had prolonged interaction with the spirit world and with spiritual groups.
보게 됩니다. 그리고
We can see also through father's sermons that mother's family was a spiritual family,
알아야 되겠다고 하는 가문이
that she was born into a specially prepared spiritual family. And in a sermon given in 2007, mother's family was a family that had to understand more than anyone all the secrets concerning the spirit world.
내용이 있습니다. 이거 2006년도 말씀인데 있습니다. 그리고 조모 애할머니와
Father said in 2006 that True Mother was born by the command of the spirit world. The faith displayed by Grandmother Cho and Daemonim in those spiritual groups was no ordinary faith, but rather thorough, strenuous, tremendous faith. They also took over the mission of the spiritual groups and received their blessings even before Mother's birth. Thus we are able to see that by the time Mother was born, the foundation for the cosmic course to restore Canaan had been prepared. The third Adam and Eve were born in the third Israel. Thus we can observe that the Chinese character Han, which appears in the term Daehanminguk, the Republic of Korea, and also in Hanminjok, the Korean race, which are the third Israel, it carries special significance. We can see that this is the kind of background behind the sending of the third Adam and Eve to the third Israel through the Korean people.
배경에 있다는 것을 우리가 보게 됩니다.
From the eighth perspective, we see points regarding the time before Mother's holy birth that are conclusively about lineage.
혈통에 대한 내용을 우리가 좀 보게 됩니다.
As stated in Chonsongyong, Father explained in 1987 that the primary criteria for him in selecting Mother was when Mother was born, whether or not she was from a lineage that could receive no accusation from Satan.
사탄에 참석할 수 있느냐 없느냐 그것이 제일 조건이다. 그런 내용이 천성경에 나오고 87년도 말씀입니다.
Also, in 1989, Father said that the reason Mother had to come from a lineage of only one daughter in each generation for 3 generations was for the sake of cleansing the lineage of Satan.
순수 혈통을 지니고 탄생한 분이다. 이것이
Also, Father said in 1970 that the bride of the returning Lord is a person who is born and possesses a pure lineage. This appears on page 217 of the 35th volume of the Sermons of the Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Furthermore, Father said in 1970, and as written in the Champumugyong, that the bride at the marriage supper of the Lamb was the person who inherits God's lineage, namely, in the position of unfallen Eve. In fact, True Mother was conceived after 9 years of sincere devotion and absolute faith. Mother was born possessing this background.
배경을 가지고 성탄을 하신 것을 보게 됩니다.
Accordingly, we have come to see from at least 8 perspectives that there was much preparation before Mother's holy birth. When we count the number of points, we find there are something like 28. Thus we can see that Mother was born on the basis of 28 separate reasons. As for the second stage, since there was that kind of preparation before Mother's holy birth, how was Mother's life from after her holy birth until the holy wedding, and what kind of preparations were made? The first point is that although Mother was born through such careful preparations, she had to live a God-centered life as she grew up. She was in a position in which only if she continued leading a God-centered life after her birth would all the preparations prior to her birth lead to her maturity and fruition. Mother always felt that God had prepared everything for her.
성탄 이후에 어머님에 대한
because God personally appeared to her and gave her revelations and thoroughly led and protected her, Mother grew centered on God.
또 하나님께서 철저히 어머님을 보호하시는 내용들이. 그리고 또 어머님 당신께서도
Led by God, she lived a life of attending heaven all the time and endlessly received education from Grandmother Cho and from Daemonim on a God-centered life of faith.
신앙을 애할머니 그리고 대모님으로부터 끝없이 하나님 중심한 그런 신앙생활을 교육을 또한 받았습니다. 그래서 이 천정의 도리
Hence we can see that Grandmother Cho and Daemonim made continual effort to pass on to Mother the way of heaven's love and the way of the heart of God. It seems clear that Mother naturally built a heart-to-heart relationship with God. Under such circumstances, she grew spiritually every day. For instance, her grandmother often told her, "Your father is Heavenly Father." Having heard that many times, whenever Mother thought about him, she felt the warmth of God's heart in her bosom.
그런 상태가 됐다는 것을 보게 되고 또한 하나님에 대한 내용을
Also, she learned much about God through experience.
집에는 늘 성경이 있고 계속
At home, Mother always read the Bible diligently.
계속 하나님 관계된 내용
Given that Grandmother Cho and her mother, Daemonim, would constantly talk to her about God, the Bible, and faith, before the holy wedding, she had already come to understand God's providence, knowingly or unknowingly, and even the historical flow of the providence of restoration through indemnity.
많이 이해를 하시게 됐다. 성원 이전에 이미 하시게 됐다는 것을 보게 됩니다. 그리고 어머님의
Also, we can see that because Mother's life was a preparatory course for her to become the bride, her course of growth was closely related to that of the returning Lord. She received the revelation and a blessing that she would become heaven's bride. Also, in reality, she learned how to serve the returning Lord and was trained and participated in the suffering course to welcome the Lord. We can see that she was trained and participated directly like this, and that she also lived continuously a life of separating evil as preparation to be the bride for the returning Lord. Always, all the focus was on the returning Lord. We can see that there was continuous preparation that focused on the Lord coming for the second time. The family foundation was important even before her holy birth, but it was also very important during her process of growing up. This is because individual perfection is accomplished substantially within the family. The life Mother lived was on such a family foundation, a foundation of deep devotion laid by her grandmother Cho and her mother Daemonim. To give a particular example, we can see that Daemonim laid the family foundation while battling for 6 years against Satan, who followed around and tried to kill Mother. Additionally, Grandmother Cho and her mother Daemonim truly offered their sincere, single-minded devotion to create a family atmosphere in which they were able to live a thoroughly God-centered life. Even though before Mother's birth, the preparation of the spirit world and of the spiritual groups was necessary, we can see that even after her birth, during her period of growth, there was continual cooperation, revelation, and guidance from the spirit world and from the spiritual groups. We can understand this as the preparatory path for the cosmic course to restore Canaan. Daemonim dreamed of grandmother Kim Song-do at the time of Mother's birth. Also, we can see that while Mother was growing up in what is now North Korea, at the age of 6, she received the revelation and blessing of a spiritual group, inherited its mission, and received detailed training through the group on how to serve the returning Lord.
재림주님의 모심 훈련도 많이 하셨다는 것을 우리가 보게 됩니다. 그리고 또한 중요한 것은
Another important fact is that temperament is important for achieving individual perfection.
우리가 많은 말씀에
The kind of inborn character that one has is a helpful influence.
불만을 하시지
Through many of Father's speeches, we have learned that when Mother was young, she neither grumbled nor complained. We also see that her intuition, insight, and observational abilities were great.
알고 있습니다.
We are also aware of this through the eyewitness accounts of various people. We see that there are testimonies from many women that Mother was an impressive person, that she was someone who had an intellectual air about her. Also, we see many reports that she was extremely natural and confident. The reason we often hear that people say Mother is confident is that because she already possessed this kind of temperament from the time she was young. During her school days, she received love and care from her teachers because she was reliable. We can see that these are significant factors in her course of perfecting her character. In addition, Mother lived a life of separating good from evil for the purpose of concretely achieving individual perfection. Heaven guided her to lead that kind of life without compromising with the secular world. She lived a life of separating from evil in which she always separated herself from the rest of the world so as not to be tainted by the worldly environment filled with temptations. She lived a life of isolation and a life of separating from evil so that she could become the bride of the Lord. We know from Father's anthology of speeches that until the Holy Wedding in 1960, Mother lived a life of that kind of separation in which she almost never revealed herself to the outside world. Such a course to attain perfection of individuality demands a lofty standard of self-discipline, and Mother thought at times that she might never achieve her goal.
성숙된 인격 형성을 위해서 부단히 노력을 하셨다는 것을 또한 우리가 말씀을 통해서 이제 보게 됩니다. 시련의 승리의 관점에서 즉 탕검 복귀의 승리.
Therefore, especially if we look from the perspective of victory over trials, namely the content of her victory of restoration through indemnity, we can see that especially Daimonim carried on the fight with Satan, who tried to kill Mother. Satan also tested Mother directly, but Mother passed through that very well and overcame the false accusations of Satan.
사탄의 참소를 넘으셨다.
God protected Mother thoroughly from the satanic world, and Mother reached a standard that Satan is unable to invade. We can see that along a course of suffering, she personally went through great ordeals and survived harsh training.
훈련을 하셨다는 내용을 우리가 보게 됩니다.
Thus, when we look at the contents of Mother's earthly life from before the Holy Wedding, namely from her holy birth to the Holy Wedding, there are considerable contents. When I look at the themes I have arranged in order, there are 25 themes related to preparing true Mother between her birth and the Holy Wedding. On this foundation, when we look at the Holy Wedding, which corresponds to the third stage of True Mother's life course, there are contents related to True Mother's Holy Wedding that Father especially emphasized. Father told us that the spirit world ordered Daimonim to give birth to Mother. Without such a historic occurrence, she would not have been able to be established as Mother, and that for the sake of being established as Mother, True Mother certainly had to be born in accordance with the command of the spirit world. These words of Father are extremely strong messages to eliminate Satan's lineage, and for her to become true Mother, Mother needed to be the third generation of only daughters. Thus Father said the reason there had to be 3 generations of just one daughter per generation was for the sake of her becoming Mother, and for the sake of not leaving any traces of Satan's lineage. These are Father's strong words regarding our Mother. In addition, since there had to be this passage through 3 generations, Father said that without passing through 3 generations, Mother could not stand in the position of Mother. In order for Mother to be born and to become Mother, there had to be 3 generations of only daughters. A very strong condition is attached to these words, namely that in order for mother to be born and to assume the position of the true mother, there had to be a course of 3 generations of only daughters. Father had already said this in 1989 and 1991. We can read that there had to be content such as that there had to be a history of 3 generations of Eve, that father could not marry with anyone at random, and that he had to welcome as his bride the daughter who had gone through the history of 3 generations of Eve. In addition, that true mother learned the way of serving the returning Lord from her mother, Demonim, that she engraved those teachings and training into her very bones, and that without such a course she would have been unable to become mother. For her to become true mother, there had to be 3 generations of thorough, bone-marrow-deep preparation to meet the returning Lord. Only that kind of person could become true mother. Furthermore, for mother to be born on earth, 3 generations to perform good deeds for the returning Lord had to pass. We see that there is also this kind of content. Furthermore, mother's family received blessings from the new Jesus Church and the inside the womb church. Receiving the blessings from these spiritual groups was imperative. Mother's family had to receive those kinds of blessings. In addition, father also said that for her to become mother, a 3-generational sacrificial family offering had to be made. These 10 points that exist here are extremely strong ones. They are strong messages, and mother has satisfied all of them. The diagram looks somewhat complicated, but there were many preparations prior to True Mother's birth. With 28 themes, there is a lot of content, but 25 of these talk about preparations between her holy birth and the holy wedding. There are at least 10 special conditions. Some might be repetitive, but many show that True Mother's holy wedding took place due to exhaustively principled, providential and cosmic preparation. This was carried out with cooperation between the physical and the spiritual worlds. On that foundation, the marriage supper of the Lamb, the holy wedding, took place. Father has spoken extensively about this. Next, we look at true parents' life courses after the holy wedding. As the true parents, they carried on lives that established the kingdom of peace. If we look at Father's sermons on this foundation, there are various times that he spoke about the status and personality of True Mother. He said that she is the daughter of the Lord, the bride of heaven, the object partner of the returning Lord, the queen of the heavenly nation, and the mother of the family, church, and cosmos. Thus we have come to comprehend Mother's background, through which she came to possess such a position and value. On this foundation, let us take a closer look at the contents concerning the only begotten daughter. I covered everything once regarding the only begotten son and the only begotten daughter. I saw that the sermons of the Reverend Sun Myung Moon include 1,500 mentions of the only begotten Son, the first being made as early as April 8, 1956, in Volume 1 of the collection of sermons. From then until Father's ascension to the spirit world, there were some 1,500 mentions of the term only begotten Son. I have seen on the internet that some people have asserted that Father never mentioned the only begotten daughter,
그렇게 얘기하는 사람도 제가
that Mother herself created this as a new term.
그런데 놀랍게도
Amazingly, however,
독생녀에 대한 말씀은
Father spoke for the first time about the only begotten daughter way back in 1959 on October 11th, 6 months before True Parents' Holy Wedding. And since then he has continued to speak about the only begotten daughter, 180 times in all.
180번에 걸쳐서 아버님께서 독생녀 계속 말씀을 하시는 걸 보게 됩니다.
The paragraph which I took notice of first appeared on October the 11th, 1959. It reads, "Can you imagine what would have happened had Jesus, God's only begotten Son, come to earth and not died? Since Jesus is God's only begotten Son, God would have sent His only begotten daughter. God's work during the past 2,000 years was dedicated to finding His bride. If we look at Father's words, the bride mentioned here refers to the only begotten daughter. Therefore, Jesus had to find the only begotten daughter, and the 2,000 years of Christian history have been to find that bride, the only begotten daughter. Father said this on October the 11th, 1959, 6 months before True Parents' Holy Wedding. Astonishingly, recently I heard Mother quoting this many times, which shocked me. How did Mother know this and make this statement? Because I know this sermon as an individual, I was taken aback. We can see that the only begotten daughter that Mother talks about now is a repetition of what Father first spoke of 56 years ago.
반복하고 계신다는 것을 우리가 보게 됩니다.
I have analyzed all of Father's speeches regarding the only begotten Son, which appeared 1,500 times, and the only begotten daughter, which appeared 180 times. Analyzing and underlining them, I realized that Father was broadly speaking about 3 conditions. The first condition is about birth. Father says that the first condition is that they must be born after receiving the first love of God. This content is similar to the first blessing. The second condition is that even though the only begotten Son and only begotten daughter are born in this way, they can realize the ideal of the only begotten son or daughter if they grow and achieve individual perfection centered on God. So the second condition also relates to the first blessing. And if we look at Father's words, there is a third condition for fulfilling the position of the only begotten son or daughter. They must marry, become parents, and raise a family centered on God. These are the 3 conditions for becoming and fulfilling the position of the only begotten Son or daughter of God. There are many sermons regarding the first condition. There are many passages in which Father said that the concept of the only begotten Son and only begotten daughter contains the meaning that the firstborn son and firstborn daughter received the first love of God. If we look at the second condition, the words appear throughout the sermons that they have to grow and achieve individual perfection centered on God. As I said earlier, the third condition is that they must get married, give birth to children and become parents. Accordingly, based on what Father has said, if we look at the first, second and third Adam and Eve, when Adam and Eve were born, they were born as the only begotten son and only begotten daughter. They were born receiving God's first love. But because they fell during the course of growing, they lost the ideal of the only begotten son and only begotten daughter. They met the first condition, but not the second, thus failing to realize the ideal of the only begotten son and daughter. In Jesus' case, He fulfilled the first and second conditions for the first blessing, namely, to be born in such a way and to reach the state of individual perfection. Jesus achieved these 2 stages, but when we look at Father's numerous sermons, he said that because Jesus could not find his bride, he was unable to experience married life, be part of a married couple, or form a family. He was meant to fulfill the third condition to realize the ideal of the only begotten son and daughter, but he was unable to.
그런 내용들이 이제 보게 됩니다.
In the diagram, you see that the first condition requires them to be born receiving God's true love.
즉 참 사랑에서 참 생명이 나와야 되고
In other words, true love must come from true life, and true lineage must come from true life. Accordingly, at birth, there must be no accusation from Satan. We have heard this said repeatedly. For the second condition, true love, true life, and true lineage have to be preserved, and the person must grow and reach perfection. We see that the third condition requires the couple to marry, become parents themselves, form a family, and thus realize the second blessing. In this overall diagram, in the case of true mother, we will examine the first condition of the only begotten daughter from the perspective of the love of God. The first condition of the only begotten daughter is that she must be born receiving God's love. That position of being born receiving the first love of God is the condition whereby Satan cannot accuse her. If we look at those contents, mother was born through God's preparation. She received God's call and God's revelation. She lived a life of overcoming suffering while serving God. She lived together with God and offered her utmost devotion to Him. All these manifestations are related to God's love. Furthermore, Satan must not be able to accuse mother. When she is born, there must be no accusation of Satan regarding her lineage. We have already studied about this in the first stage. She was born from a lineage that Satan could not accuse. Satan's lineage was liquidated, and the returning Lord's bride was born of a pure line. The bride at the marriage supper of the Lamb was in the position of unfallen Eve in God's lineage. Also, she was conceived after 9 years of sincere devotion and life of faith. We can see that the very first conditions surrounding mother's birth included these points. The second condition is individual perfection. That is, mother had to attain individual perfection to meet the second condition as the only begotten daughter. She could not fall on the way, as Eve had done, but had to grow and fulfill her mission by centering on God to the very end, until receiving the blessing. As we saw a while ago, after her birth, while there was constant preparation, revelation, guidance, and protection on God's part, there was corresponding growth and living a life centered on God.
철저한 하나님과의 관계가 바로 독생녀의 이상을 이루한 두 번째 조건의 내용이라고 볼 수 있습니다. 그리고
Furthermore, mother had to lead a life of separating from evil for the sake of achieving individual perfection, and she worked to achieve that individual perfection. We can see that these contents are the second condition to realize the ideal of the only begotten daughter, which Eve had failed to fulfill.
이루는 제 두 번째 조건, 개성완성의 조건을 이룬 내용을 보게 됩니다. 그리고 또한
In addition, we saw that there were many preparations for the only begotten daughter, as well as preparations for the returning Lord as the only begotten Son. We just saw these contents. On that foundation, the third condition requires getting married. The third required condition for the only begotten son and only begotten daughter is that they wed. After the marriage supper of the Lamb took place in 1960, we see that father and mother, as the true parents, formed a family and constantly lived lives of realizing the ideal of the only begotten son and daughter. As the true parents of humankind, they have fulfilled many of the things stipulated in the third condition for the only begotten son and only begotten daughter. It is a holy endeavor that is truly amazing. I can roughly estimate this course includes some 200 different points. We can see from many slides in this PowerPoint presentation that they have lived in the position of the true parents of humankind, who have realized the ideal of the only begotten son and daughter. Therefore, since the first, second, and third conditions to become the only begotten daughter were fulfilled, we are now in the position to be able to understand the content behind father and mother as the only begotten son and only begotten daughter, respectively. In a way, this is the conclusion of my speech today. What kind of problems will arise if we deny true mother's value and criticize her? Mother had this kind of life from before her birth, and she fulfilled many special conditions to become mother between her birth and the holy wedding. She took part in the marriage supper of the Lamb. And since the wedding feast, she has walked this cosmic course as a true parent.
어린 양 잔치 후에 이런 노정을 천주적으로 해오셨는데
In light of true father and true mother having been together for a long time, I will conclude by considering the problems attendant to denying true mother's value and criticizing her. First, I think this desecrates God, because true parents are the only channels through which God, our heavenly parent, reveals himself, reveals his ideal of creation, his providence, the purpose of creation, the principle of creation, and everything else.
가장 온전히 드러내실 수 있는 그 길은 채널은 참 부모를 통해서 됩니다. 남자
A man or woman alone cannot sufficiently reveal God, because God exists as a harmonized being of the original masculinity and original femininity. Hence, if we deny true mother, we are eventually denying the true parents. Should we deny true parents, ultimately we have made it so that God cannot reveal His will fully. When God cannot completely reveal His ideal of creation, we have to understand that we are profaning His name and causing injury to God's ideal.
그런 내용을 우리가 이해하게 됩니다. 두 번째는 참 아버님의
Second,
가치를 부정한다는
we
것을
come to understand that this denies true father's value. True father achieved ultimate unity with true mother, and he experienced the joys and sorrows of life together with her for more than 50 years.
그런데 같이 해오신 아버님과 어머님이
However, since father and mother walked together,
함께 하셨던
if someone says that mother failed, then it means that father also failed.
결과가 결국은
We can see that it will eventually bring disgrace to father.
그리고 아버님의 최고의 가치
Another thing is that the highest value of father is as the true parent of heaven, earth, and humankind. However, true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind is a title, a value, and an ideal that father cannot assume by himself. If we deny mother's value, true father cannot be the true parent of heaven, earth, and humankind. The consequences are to block and negate the true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind.
그다음에 세 번째는 참 자녀와 참 가정의 가치를 부정한다고
Third,
이해하고 있습니다.
I understand that it is denying the value of the true family and the true children.
참 아버님과
This is because the true children's value comes from true father and true mother,
성장되셨고
who raised them as their substantial and natural parents.
그런데
We can consider that denying mother will eventually lead to denying, demolishing, and undermining the foundation upon which the true children stand.
부정하고 무너뜨리고 손상 입히는 그런 결과가 되는 것도 우리가 생각을 하게 됩니다. 네 번째는
Fourth,
세계
It is tantamount to denying the value of the worldwide blessed families.
모든 분들은 참 부모님에 의해서
Every one of you has received the blessing, been cleansed of your original sin, and received rebirth through true father and true mother. We have lived our lives of faith, attending father and mother together.
그런데 그런 어머님을 부정한다면
However, since to deny mother is to deny true parents themselves, ultimately the value of blessed families will also be damaged. The value of blessed families is maintained, developed, matured, and perfected on the foundation of true parents. The denial of mother means denial of the foundation of the existence, the foundation of rebirth, and thus the value of the world's blessed families would collapse in destruction.
손상되는 그런 결과를 또한 우리가 생각을 하게 됩니다.
Next, the fifth point, The four great realms of heart and the four great loves constitute the absolute, unique, unchanging and eternal path along which all human beings ultimately must tread. Our true Father and true Mother have experienced and substantiated the four great loves and four great realms of heart and achieved the position of the model true parents together. Since our true parents became the model of the four great realms of heart and the four great loves, denying Mother results in damage to Father's conjugal love and heart, as well as his parental love and heart. The four loves and the four great realms of heart will become problematic. True Father and true Mother constitute our model of life based on the four great loves and four great realms of heart, which we all have to emulate. If we deny true Mother, our model will become problematic. We come to understand that the value of life based on the four great loves and four great realms of heart, which has become the core value of true parents, would be damaged. Sixth, we can view this from the standpoint of life based on the three great blessings. As we all know, the three great blessings are the fundamental system that humanity and all things of creation must pursue together. They form the fundamental system and intrinsic base of the ideal world. They are the basic pattern and paradigm. Our true Father and true Mother established the model of the three great blessings together. However, the three great blessings absolutely cannot exist without true parents. The second blessing became possible when Father and Mother became the true parents. Only through true parents is the third blessing completed. These are contents that we know well. That is why, if we deny true Mother, we will be denying true parents' position, and ultimately the model of the three great blessings will be damaged. The result will be that the model of the three great blessings and the value of life based on the three great blessings would be damaged. Finally, the seventh problem is the denial of the ideal of Chonilguk. From the perspective of the Chonilguk ideal, Chonilguk is the realization of the ideal with true parents as the model, and the world of cosmic peace and unification as the ideal world. Denying Mother, however, means that true parents, who have become the central focal point, will decrease in value, and that they cannot properly stand at the focal point. The Chonilguk Ideal and Vision 2020 are all about the safe settlement of the substantial Chonilguk. We can see that the settlement of Chonilguk, which corresponds to the ideal world, would become problematic. Thus, when we look from at least these 7 standpoints, we are aware of the fact that if we deny and criticize true Mother, these fundamental contents will be damaged and shaken. Therefore, only provided we attend true Father and true Mother together as the true parents of humanity, as the true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind, with an absolute, unique, unchanging, eternal, and universal heart, will the vision of the ideal world of creation before the fall ultimately be able to be accomplished. If you have understood through my speech why we now have to unite with Father in the spirit world and Mother in the physical world, you will be able to see that this is the natural conclusion. Once again, through these words today, I would like to offer my deep gratitude to true Mother and indescribable appreciation to true Father in the spirit world. At the same time, I would like again to repent for all of us, including myself, for not being proper models in character or signposts of life for true parents, and for not testifying well about true parents to the people of the world. Once again, I sincerely hope this will be a time for us to make a fresh start through the 2016 Chonilguk Leaders Assembly. With this, I will end my lecture today. Thank you very much.
감사합니다.